Man, I am not a very creative namer of things, I'll be honest.
Not a very what?
Creative namer of things. I would have been bad for that role that Adam Harishon, Adam, fulfilled in the Garden of Eden of naming everything, because I'd been like the four-legged one, with spots, the four-legged one that likes Cheetos. Like it really would have been very simple.
But
truly.
believed at that time by giving a name, you understood them. That's why you could win.
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe. Could be. Okay, are we ready to travel to Utz? Okay, we're going to travel to Utz. So first, we will start with our blessing for the study of Torah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. If you say Amen, you get full credit.
Amen.
And we are going to start in the land of Utz with, we're going to start Job, as I've mentioned. For anyone who tuned in today on YouTube expecting this to be our review class of Kohelet, we are pushing that back a week. We will review Kohelet next week. This week we are forging ahead into the deep and wise or wisdom literature book of Eov. And we don't like to call him Eov that much. You'll hear me go back and forth. Sometimes I'll say Eov, sometimes I'll say Job. Really, how you get Eov from, I guess it's like Job, which becomes Job, I guess. In any event, you get Eov here, and Eov. Uh, what does Eov mean? Has anybody got your Hebrew chops good enough to recognize this word from certain prayers?
I don't.
It shares a root with oyavim.
Okay.
Which means enemies.
Yeah.
Oh.
Eov means one who is hated or despised. Right?
Wow.
The titular character's name gives away the story he's going to experience. So Ish Haya, the Eretz Utz, Eov Shmo. There was a man in the land of Utz named Job. That man was blameless and upright. Aishahu tam v'yashar, right? He was simple and righteous, pure and clean.
Mm-hmm.
He feared God, v'yarei Elohim, v'sar me'ra. He feared God, he was in awe of God, and he shunned evil. So who are we talking? So who is this hated? Who is Eov? Who's Job?
The righteous man.
Yeah. Who else do we hear spoken about like that?
Joseph.
Tam v'yashar v'yarei Elohim v'sar me'ra. Joseph, not so much. He kind of messes around, right? He rats on his brothers, and right. He's not really a pure guy. Who gets called? Who gets similar terminology to this?
Abraham.
Who's Abraham in his own way? Sure, that's not exactly what I was looking for. Who's known as righteous in their generation? Who's the only righteous man in his generation? It doesn't say this guy's the only righteous guy, but he is one. Who was though?
Moses.
No, Moses was not right. I mean, he was righteous. I don't mean to say that. He was not like a pure and blameless person. Noah.
Oh, Noah. Sure.
Noah was pure and blameless in his generation. He was the only one, and that's why he was preserved on the ark and his family, whereas the rest of humanity was removed. And Utz has this good guy in it. And so the Utz is, we think, in the region of Aram or Edom. So just to the east, so where Jordan is today.
Mm-hmm.
It's from a land near, where Jordan is. 7 sons and 3 daughters were born to him. His possessions were 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 yoke of oxen, and 500 jennies, just female donkeys, and a very large household. That man was wealthier than all the people of the East. So what do we know about Job now?
He's very blessed.
Yeah. So not only does he fear God, but he's received, I mean, right? I mean, he fears God and shuns evil. His character is great. And he's been so blessed. He's got 7 sons and 3 daughters, and that's like these are peak numbers. Because you want to have a couple daughters. Don't want to just have sons, but you do want to have more sons than daughters. He's doing peak in everything, right? He's got peak children, he's got peak sheep and camels and all the stuff. He's like a king almost. He's so rich and wealthy and whatnot, and he has properties and large family, right? So it was the custom of his sons to hold feasts, each on his set day in his own home. They would invite their 3 sisters to eat and drink with them, right? First of all, they're so rich, the daughters don't have to get married. They can just hang out. They'll pick someone if they want to. Not relevant. And they're so rich, they don't just get together in one big house, but they all have big houses and they just go between them every day, right? It sets up the image of like the British Regency era, right? Like an aristocratic family. They don't have to work. They don't have to do anything. They just go around and party at each other's houses.
That
every
does
day.
sound like the British aristocracy.
Right. That's I'm good. Yeah, I want you to get that picture because that's what they're kind of delivering here, right? But I mean, it's also nice in the sense that like they had a close family relationship. They, I mean, there are good things about that kind of bond and loyalty that as long as you have it, I guess. So all their big meals were like extended family events.
Do they invite outsiders to the birthday?
Doesn't say.
Doesn't
These
say.
aren't birthday parties. These are just parties.
Oh.
And it doesn't say whether they invited other people. If they didn't, it sounds pretty tranquil. If they did, it sounds pretty raucous, but it doesn't say. When a round of feast days was over, Job would send word to them to sanctify themselves. And rising early in the morning, he would make burnt offerings, one for each of them. For Job thought, perhaps my children have sinned and blasphemed God in their thoughts. This is what Job always used to do. This was what he did every day, all his days. Right? He's careful about impurities. He's this rich guy, but he rises in the morning just to do this for his children, just to make sure they would be protected against blasphemy. Now, is he doing it for his children or for God? Right? Because they go to these feasts, they're levity, smugness, partying. They're not thinking about God the whole time. Maybe they blasphemed God. Maybe they did something they'll be cursed for. So he's looking out for that. But is he looking out for his children or is he looking out for Kavod Adonai, for the honor of God?
Well,
I always thought the latter, but I don't know.
it almost seems like both.
It seems like it could be both.
Yeah.
We don't really know, do we?
Yeah.
Doesn't really say. But it is still rare, please understand, that he would do all of this himself. That he would be so midakdek, so precise in his dealing with impurity at this time. And as someone who did not live, again, this is a diaspora person, right? He doesn't live in Eretz Yisrael.
When was this written?
I don't remember.
I've never got a date on it.
I'm sure that's something we can easily look up. No, it's okay. I'll look it up for you right now. I don't remember off the top of my head. Between the 6th and 4th centuries BCE, in the Persian period, hence diaspora, because many Jews lived in Persia at that time.
Sure, well, because of Babylonian captivity.
Right, because of the Babylonian exile. Many Jews either stayed there or moved from there to the great centers, and of course we'd later write the Talmud majority in in Persia. Anyway, so this is the tension, of course, of the book. He's so pious and he's so rewarded. What question springs out to you from that situation?
There's a wish in that period to have the perfect man that protects the group. But the question would be, how is that possible? Humans aren't that way.
Okay, so it could be that the question could be, is he perfect?
Yeah.
Right.
That's a question. He could be perfect, but nobody seems to be. So
Yeah.
if he's the one perfect guy, now again, it did say he was, again, Tom means like simple, straightforward. He's not a duplicitous guy. And Yashar, again, straight, righteous, but also Yashar just means straight. He's straightforward. I get the impression we are meant to believe him.
Okay.
That he's sincere. He's not just going through motions. He's not doing it as insurance, as like, well, I better make sure nothing's impure or we could lose everything. All this stuff that I like. We're meant to believe in his devotion to God.
The love of God.
Right. Not everyone believes.
But he follows all the mitzvot.
Yes, he follows all the mitzvot.
He can't follow the temple part because if that's when it's written, the temple is gone. At least the first temple.
Right. Yeah. But whatever version of sacrifice they're doing at that point, he can do.
Right. Yeah, that's no sacrifice.
Right. They're still doing sacrifice, and they will for hundreds of years.
Is that because animals were their currency that was showing that they?
Well, but no. I mean, it was really animal sacrifice was because it was a food system. It was a food system as much as anything. Again, remember when you brought an animal for sacrifice, you got to keep the large chunk of the cooked meat and eat it with your family.
So supported the church.
These feasts that literally Job is talking about right now. And also the priests get to keep 10%, get to keep a cut of it for doing the work also. That's what you pay.
The butchers. Yes.
Right. Well, not even a butcher, in this case the cook. This is the restaurant essentially. You know,
who kills the animal?
They do. You bring the live animal to them. In fact, what ended up being set up, which was really mean of Jesus, just so I can upset the internet a little bit. It was really mean of Jesus to get all upset at the money changers at the temple. He could be upset if they were charging usurious amounts for the animals. But there was a ritual reason why those people existed. First of all, there were like 7 kingdoms within nearby, and you might have to change money, but more than that, you might have to, if you took an animal from Beit El, which is 70 miles, from Jerusalem, I don't know, but you got to walk up and down mountains. If you took a sheep from there to there, the odds of it getting blemished, because they can only sacrifice pure animals at the temple, is pretty high. And if you make that whole trip to do this one thing, and they say, we're not even going to cook this for you because it's not a pure, clean animal that's got these blemishes, it's part of its horn, this thing, its tooth, no good. Then you're out of luck. So what did I
don't understand where everybody is. We had a group.
Yeah, there was Chris and the man. I don't know this man, but
some others.
Yeah.
Anyway, so what do you do instead? The temple officials decide they will raise pure animals and keep them near the temple. So that if you go, you can bring your animal or not. You can bring money if you have it, but if not, you can bring your animals and your grain and whatever you need and sell them. You can deal with them at the temple, and then with money already, you can buy a pure animal at the temple, and they'll take it right in for you and do it. And you don't have to worry about not being able to do the sacrifice and not getting the food and not doing that. So the temple institutes that as a way to do it, and they do it where? In the temple courtyard, because that's the closest place.
Mhm.
That's the closest place.
Mhm.
Anyway, I understand ritually why Mr. Jesus was upset about the was upset, but it was really the best way if you're going to do.
Mhm.
Now, of course, he wasn't that into animal sacrifice anyway, as far as I understand. So it probably worked out fine in the end in some ways because we're not doing that anymore anyway. But like we also don't we don't spend money on Shabbos, so like there's none of that anymore. But but anyway, that's my whole it was mean because we needed that. It was important for animal sacrifice. Okay. So verse 6. Vayhi hayom, and there was a day, the divine beings presented themselves before God, and Hasatan betocham, and the adversary what came along with them.
Was he not a divine being?
No. He was. He was. It's just making sure you recognize. It's like if you were at the beginning of a movie and there's obviously you see the guy and he's Henry VIII. You know who he is, right? You see him walking, and then there's a bunch of other people, and then it closes in on one and it shows a title card, it shows a thing to let you know who this is, and it says Cardinal Wolsey or
Right.
one of his other or one of his friends. So that because it's not necessarily someone you might recognize.
Right.
It's not God, it's just one of the court, but it wants you to recognize this is a main character in this story. Not that Hasatan is not. So let's get to Hasatan.
Okay.
Who is Hasatan?
In this story, it sounds like he's a tempter. He's tempting God to do something.
Perhaps we don't know that yet. So far all we know is that he's there. So we don't have any character traits yet. But they're going to call Hasatani. Oh, I'm sorry. This is doing a whole thing. My apologies. This is still on last night's. It's on 978 minutes. Okay. So one day the B'nai HaElohim, or the divine beings, it says the children of God, but that's not really what it is. Here we really are talking about angels. It means junior, not children. It means the junior partners, the servants of God, I guess you could say, more than children, and of course that means angels. So one day these angels presented themselves before God, and among them was, now this word Hasatan comes from siton, which means to make oneself distant, and it kind of means putting oneself distant from God.
Okay.
Is that the same as the adversary?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Hasatan is, now it says the adversary here. In Steinsaltz, it's the accuser.
Okay.
Really, it's one that puts oneself across from someone. Is where
Gotcha.
the thing comes from. So the idea is he sets himself against someone. Obviously, since the name is Hasatan, and we get Ha is again the definite article. It's the. That's why we say the adversary, the accuser, Hasatan. So the name is Satan. Where do we know the name Satan? Obviously, in culture, that name has lent itself to Christian religion as pronounced, not as Satan, but as Satan, same spelling. And it is a version of the devil, some kind of maleficent, not maleficent, malevolent. Thank you, Maleficent was that movie. Malevolent, opposing force to God and humanity. I don't know much more about it than that in Christian mythology. I understand that there's a lot about this particular character. We just know here this character is an angel and lives in God's heavenly court. So unlike whatever the Christian version of Hasatan might be, This person does not rule over some kind of underworld.
Right.
This person was not cast out of heaven.
No.
This person lives in heaven. This guy is he's part of the heavenly court. Every court needs an attorney, a prosecutor. That's his job. Yeah.
Because angels are called malachim or messengers.
Malachim, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and is then Shatan a malachim of some form?
Malach is the word for one angel,
Okay.
which again is a diminutive of melech, which is king, right?
Yeah.
But malach, which is also what we use for, yeah. So a malach is an angel, and yes, he's very clearly whatever these Bnei Elohim are, which we think are angels, he's one of them. Yeah, this Hasatan is an angel.
Now, is there any implication he has more power than the other?
No, there's no, just that he has a role. Just that he has a role.
No.
Other angels may and do have other roles.
Also, Gabriel, Raphael.
Well, again, I do want to say we must work to clarify the roles of certain angels and whether we believe they exist. Christianity has a much more defined angelology. I don't know if there's a word for that. I don't know what it is. Than we do. Yeah, they care a lot more about angels and what they do, and we don't have anything to do with them, essentially. They are their own thing. Sometimes if God needs them to do something to or for us, they do. Sometimes they speak to us if God needs to relay a message. That is we are not like them. We don't have anything to do with them. We don't pray to them, certainly. We don't invoke their name in blessings. None of that. They can't help us. We don't even really think they want to help us. Judaism doesn't believe angels like people all that much. They're pretty jealous of us because they think God likes us more, even though they're cooler than we are with their ability to live forever and their wings and stuff.
The Hebrew scripture
and their ugliness. Sorry, they're really strange looking. People like again in Christian mythology, there's this idea that angels are really attractive men with wings. No, way weirder looking than that. They don't look like. Anyway, sorry. Yeah.
Well,
they don't look like Matt Damon. I was going to say Ben Affleck from Dogma.
Messengers. Metatron is referred to in the Hebrew scriptures as very powerful.
We'll get to if we're going to get it all to any of that. We'll see. I don't really want to get because again, like how some of these characters in prophetic books are referred to by. I think there's a lot in our culture, especially as Americans, which makes sense, where our understanding of angels comes out of a Christian milieu. And I think a lot of things in America, thankfully, are very Judeo-Christian. They kind of do a good job of balancing different aspects of our traditions. When it comes to angels, it's all Christian. Because again, we don't do much talking about them. So we didn't put anything into the work on that really. And it's just what Christians think about. So just be careful what you think about angels. It may be a interpretation out of I love being able to warn people about angels. Please be careful about angels. They're very
particularly this angel, Shaitan.
Well, yes, especially this angel. Right. So his job again is prosecutor, whose duty is to ensure that all cases are conducted in accordance with the letter of the law and to raise allegations even against God if there are grounds to do so.
Mm-hmm.
I guess this is where you get the idea in Christianity that that Hasatan rebelled against God because his job here is to kind of oppose God, and he's the only angel whose job is to stand up to God, essentially. So I guess you could read from that it could be taken to the extreme, and he tried to really stand up to God.
He changes over time, and
in different books, he is written about differently.
By the time of Milton,
that's okay. Yeah,
powerful.
It's one of those things where I only care about the Jewish books and writers on it because the reason I say that is I say that very intentionally because one, I don't want to get confused. If you talk about Milton, there's no Jew about anything that's within 20 miles of Milton. So any interpretation. What I'm also saying is Milton didn't look at that. Milton doesn't give a hoot about what Jewish commentary thinks about Jewish text, right? Mm-hmm. So we don't want to listen to anybody, even though I think Milton's a very interesting writer and smart guy. We don't want to listen to anybody on this that until we've got a good grounding in the Jewish
Great.
story about Hasatan, because again, it's so easy to get thrown off course because of what else is out there, like Milton, where he's going to say lots of stuff, but like I could say lots of stuff too, right? Unless he did hermeneutics, I'm not really, we can't get anything out of it.
I was just saying that
Yeah.
the figure of Shaitan changes in Christianity.
Oh yes,
He's almost like Jewish at the time of Jesus because Jesus is a Jew. But by the 17th century, he's so powerful, he's more powerful than God at that time.
well, fair enough. Yes, certainly we don't have any. There's nothing to indicate at all that Hasatan is powerful enough to do anything.
Right.
His job isn't to be powerful. His job is to talk.
He's a messenger of a kind.
Well, he's a prosecutor. His job is to argue and to talk. His job is not to do machloket l'shem shamayim, argument for the sake of heaven.
Yeah.
Literally in this case. It's not to fight people or wage wars or make deals with them for fiddles. None of it. None of those things. I love Charlie Daniels, but Hasatan, maybe the devil does that. Hasatan doesn't do any of that.
Yeah.
Hasatan is watching whatever's about the devil and is like, that guy's not me, whoever you're talking about. I'm just like a mild-mannered lawyer. Like you can not like lawyers, that's fine, but like you can't pretend I'm the devil. Anyway, I feel like Hasatan could use an attorney, is what I'm saying. Okay. So now we're gonna now the play begins. Vayomer Adonai El Hasatan, God said to the adversary, or I'm just going to say Hasatan, because again, that's his name and role. Where have you been? Hasatan answered God, I have been roaming all over the earth. Right? Because as part of Hasatan's job, Hasatan doesn't remain in heaven because just like any law enforcement official, he's gathering evidence and checking things out and going on stakeouts, and none of that happens in heaven. It's all down on earth. So he spends a lot of time, and God's like, hey, where have you been? It's been a while. And he's like, I'm doing my job. And my job involves a lot of travel. Remember? Right? They're just kibitzing.
Sure.
Right? It's like you run into a friend outside shul on the steps, and you're like, "Hey, I haven't seen you in a couple of weeks. Where you been?" It's like, "Oh, I've been out on business. I've been out working." And so Vayomer Adonai again, God said to Hasatan, "Have you noticed my servant Eov? There is no one like him on earth, a blameless and upright man." Yarei Elohim v'sar me'ra, who fears God and shuns evil. Right? He's just saying, don't you agree this guy is great? Right? You go and see people messing up every day. Doesn't it do your heart good, or whatever angels have in there? Doesn't it feel good that there's one guy at least who does everything right? And Hasatan answers God. Does Job not have good reason to fear God? Of course, what is the beginning argument here? God says to Hasatan, hey, I know that your job is tough. I appreciate that. By the way, again, very different from this. They're going to go to war with each other. These are friends. These are not friends. This is a subordinate and a boss, but they have a collegial relationship, right? If you had a boss or, whatever, if you were the boss and you had psychiatrists under you, if you're Dr. Bradshaw, it's like that. You don't hate them. They're your colleagues, essentially. This is what's going on here. And so he says, God, I see your point. You say he's a good guy. Hasatan says, I concede it, right? As an attorney, I concede to you that he's a good guy. He does good stuff. But hey, he's got good reason to show that he's Yirat Hashem, right? That he has awe of God. Mm-hmm. Is Satan wrong? Satan. Is Satan wrong?
Well,
is Hasatan right or wrong?
Satan's point is Job has everything.
Right.
And
So he has good reason
therefore he
to
has
fear
good
God.
reason to be, well, fear or awe or.
Right, exactly. He's got good reason to be a believer in
Right.
any event.
Yeah.
Exactly.
He's got everything any man could ever want, so of course, right? The old again, this is about Jesus and mental health, right? The old idiom that both of those are for people who can help themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what he's saying, right? Is that not what Hasatan is saying here?
Yeah.
He's essentially saying, yeah, I mean, if you've got everything and you can do whatever, then
Right.
good. I mean, it's good. And sometimes like, okay, good. It's good he does that. It's the lowest bar possible for a human being,
Yeah.
but he met the lowest bar possible. And God's like,
Yeah.
no, this guy is top notch. And Hasatan is like, I mean, I grade him at like a 4, but whatever. It's good enough, right? It's good enough for you. It's good enough for you. You're the boss. If it's good enough for you, it's good enough for you. That just if somebody says that to you, it just gets under your skin, right? They don't think something's as cool as you think it is, and they think it's garbage, and you just can't get it out of your craw. And that's the fight we're going to see now, right? It started as just a conversation, essentially.
Sure.
So he says, does Job not have good reason to fear God? In verse 10, why, it is you who have fenced him round, him and his household, and all that he has. You have blessed his efforts so that his possessions spread out in the land, right? You have given him, through your blessing, a net of assistance, protection, and patronage, so that he is never to struggle in any way. And so since he never has to struggle, yeah, I mean, he's upright and wholehearted, which is great. But you don't make this situation for everybody, God. You can't. Nobody can. Every person can't live like Job.
Right.
So he's like, it's great. It's a good gig if you can get it.
Yeah.
Hasatan says, if you can be God's favorite and get everything that everything goes good for you and everybody loves you and whatever, then yeah, I bet religion's real easy for you. I bet you believe in God. You believe you deserve all the things you got. Right? That's all he's saying. He's just saying, hey, it's not exactly on a level playing field these people are playing on. I'm judging him, but I've got to have a scale also because I've got poor people who sleep in gutters. And they don't have the money to do a fresh washing of the clothes to remove impurities every morning. Or the time, because they have to get their bread so they don't die. Right? It's real world out there. Yeah.
Implication that if a poor man was righteous and did everything correct and didn't have the things, he's following Ecclesiastes to accept what God gave.
I think Hasatan, I'm not sure. I mean,
we don't see Satan in Ecclesiastes.
No,
but,
yeah, right. No, I mean, I don't know how Satan would deal with Ecclesiastes exactly. But here very much the implication is that one who Kohelet, I would say, actually disagrees somewhat, saying that people suffer regardless of how much money they have.
Right.
And
so I can get over that, then it's not just Havel, it's
exactly
proper
right.
life.
Now Job is right, but that's a different axis kind of than this conversation, right? That's a conversation about personal satisfaction and development of the soul. This is about righteousness in the world and justice. So they're both important conversations. They're just different conversations. It's a different rubric we're talking about here. I would say. 1 second, sorry. 6 places at once today. Okay, so right, so that's what's going on. And so furthermore, now he says, Hasatan says, but lay your hand upon all that he has, and he will surely blaspheme you to your face. Right?
And a lot of people do. they say things like, well, if there really is a God, he wouldn't let that happen, or if there was a God, that wouldn't have happened.
Or there must not be because
Must
it did
not be
not
a
happen.
God,
Right,
right.
right. Right. And this is a very cynical,
Mhm.
but we've seen it. I think everybody knows this exists, as Mitzi was saying. That it's like, if you take it all away from him, I'm just saying, based on what I've seen, Satan is like, I think you're likely to see that he's going to show you a different side if his needs aren't exactly perfectly met the way they have been. So God replied to Hasatan, so Hine, behold, all that he has is in your power. Only do not lay a hand on him. So what's he saying? He's saying you have permission to test Job and to see whether, as you claim, he will abandon and even blaspheme me if he suffers. And so with that being said, Hasatan departed from God's presence. The one rule being you can't hurt him. You can't like chop off his arm because of course then it's like if you can't give him a disability or something. But you can take away his material goods. It doesn't, right? Because material goods, which Kohelet would agree with, material goods don't change anything about what's inside the soul.
Right.
Right? Because Kohelet says the soul can be crushed for a rich person just like a poor person.
Shaitan can touch any material things, but he doesn't touch Job's wife because she stays through a lot of this.
Not a material thing.
Well,
I'm just saying she's
Thank you.
she's not a property, but she's still part of the.
She's part of his household, yes, but he yes, no, and at the same time, yes, it's good that she sticks around. Okay. So right, so Hasatan departed from God, and he's like, okay, I'm gonna go. Time to put up or shut up. Right? I just said to God in front of all the other angels that God was wrong. That again, Hasatan never directly says God is wrong. He just suggests that maybe Job wouldn't be so good if he lost stuff.
Right.
And God goes straight into it. But I shouldn't say that Hasatan confronted God in that way, because Hasatan never, if you were reading it, actually confronted God.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mhm.
Hasatan works for God. These are just reminders, but he's never confronting God. He's suggesting this, and so God says, you know what? I'm interested. Put it to the test. And Hasatan says, that's literally my job. I'll go do that. So he leaves. And now we transition back to Earth. Verse 13. One day, as his sons and daughters were eating and drinking wine in the house of their eldest brother, which is what they usually do, a messenger came to Job and said, the oxen were plowing and the jennies were grazing alongside them. When Sabaeans, Sheba says, attacked them and carried them off and put the attendants to the sword, I alone have escaped to tell you. So they killed all his helpers. They took a bunch of their animals. Terrible. This one was still speaking when another one came and said, God's fire fell from heaven, took hold of the sheep and the attendants, and burned them up. Right? So the first messenger was still speaking, is what's happening here. And again, I alone have escaped to tell you. So the first guy comes and tells his story saying, they came, they stole a bunch of your animals, they killed a bunch of people, and I'm the only one who came. And as he's finishing saying that, another messenger runs in. And that messenger says, a fire of God, in other words, literally like a meteor fell from fire came from the heavens. It was just a really big fire that happened. And it burned among the sheep and among the workers and consumed all of them. So now not only the donkeys and the oxen, but all the sheep are gone and all their work and all the workers that he was paid, and he came alone. He alone came to tell him. This one was still speaking when another came. Bad day. And said, a Chaldean or Babylonian formation of 3 columns made a raid on the camels and carried them off and put the attendants to the sword, and I alone have escaped to tell you. So he used to have hundreds of people working for him and all these camels and sheep and oxen and donkeys, and now he's got none of them. We'll get to that. Right, just calamity after calamity after calamity. And suddenly his huge wealth, which was in all of these animals, gone. And that one was still speaking, the third one, when a fourth messenger came and said, your sons and daughters were eating and drinking wine in the house of their eldest brother, when suddenly a mighty wind came from the wilderness. It struck the 4 corners of the house so that it collapsed upon the young people, and they died. I alone have escaped to tell you. Not only are all of his possessions destroyed or carried away, but all of his children are dead as well. Not his wife, but all his children are dead.
They don't mention goats, and yet that's part of the wealth of the people.
Well, maybe he needs. Remember, he gets it all back eventually, so
Right.
don't worry. I urge you not to look too deeply into.
I know the happy ending.
I'm just saying, I urge you not to look too deeply into, like, where are the goats right now? Please don't worry about it. Maybe they were kept as an insurance bond. I don't know. I don't know. But don't worry about the goats. They're,
but all the possessions.
But all the possessions, they're gone. He was one of the richest men in the land, and he has none of that now. He had 10 children. They're all dead. What could it be? None of us can ever know that level, but we all face loss.
Yeah.
We can all empathize with loss, and we can all understand to some degree that this person's whole world has been thoroughly not just upended, but hafucht, right? Totally flipped upside down. It resembles not at all the world that it was yesterday. How could we expect, this is where it gets into being wisdom literature. You have to stop and think about these things. What would you do? Again, he was up. He was doing stuff. It was the middle of the day. 4 messengers. 3 to tell him all his possessions are gone and all his workers, and a 4th to tell him his family is dead. What would you do after the 4th person delivered their news?
I would be in shock. Like,
Yeah.
just kind of not moving.
The usual, I wouldn't believe it, and then I'd sort of try to deal with it and gradually accept it and
Sure, right.
feel sad, and
Absolutely. It's hard to even wrap your head around.
It's a little like the great crash in the stock market in the 30s. A whole bunch of people solved it by jumping out of buildings.
Yes, true. Well, in this case, there are lots of ways to deal with your problems. That's a bad one, but it is one. That's a bad one, and I strongly don't recommend it. But hey, if you're in New York and you really don't want to live anymore, I guess there you go. Now they're gonna like kick us off YouTube because I said that. But even though I'm not advocating for it, for the record. Anyway, yeah, there's a lot of different ways you can deal with it. I think about the ways I would deal with it, and I can tell you, I'm a rabbi. I think of myself as a fairly pious person. I would not have done what Job did. So, verse 20. First thing he did, Vayakom Eov, he rises. Vayikra, and in this case it's kara like cutting, not yikra like to call out or to speak. This is Vayikra like, and he cut or tore, in this case he rent his robe. Me'ilo, me'il is a robe. He sheared his head, or the hair off his head, which, by the way, you as a sign of mourning, you do that once, I guess, and then you don't do it again. You let it grow after that, but he cut off his hair and he threw himself on the ground and he bowed. He bowed himself to the ground.
Mm-hmm.
So it says here, he fell to the ground and prostrated himself. He threw himself on the ground and worshipped. He put himself on the ground. He fell to the ground and he bowed.
Mm-hmm.
He in supplication. He said, "Naked came I out of my mother's womb, and naked shall I return there." Not really, though. He doesn't seem to understand. He won't go back to his mother's womb, but he will be naked when he does. Doesn't really work that way, but he's not a scientist. God has given, by the way, and this part again, I say at every funeral, and it's an important that you'll hear it now anytime you hear me do one. Adonai Natan v'Adonai Lakach, Yehi Shem Adonai Mevorach. He says, God has given and God has taken away. Blessed be the name of God. And again, we say it at a funeral because at a funeral, we've lost what's closest to us. It's like our world has been turned upside down. And in that darkness, we cry out like Job cries out in this moment. And so that's why we use this line from Job as liturgy for the Jewish funeral service. I don't know if Christians also use this, but I know that we use it in every service, in every funeral. For all that, Job did not sin, nor did he cast reproach on God. Right? He never complained about what happened to him. He accepted his fate. He didn't question it or discuss it. He just wanted to thank God that he still lived. You can see how it rhymes with Kohelet a little bit. Why these are both wisdom literature when you see this, right? Because he's getting down, the wisdom in it is he's getting to the essence of what it is to exist as a human being. And he said, look, I don't have stuff, but I can still go out and do whatever I want. My body works, I can communicate, I'm alive, and God has made this world where I don't have to wear a mask to breathe. I just need to drink water out of a stream and run and do whatever, and I can and a little bit of bread and I can live as a human being. Right? And it's boring down in that way to the core fundamental of what it is to be human.
Did anybody write about the Holocaust in that term?
We'll do Holocaust another day.
I have friends who
maybe, but I'm not I'll be honest. I don't. Yeah.
I'm just talking about dealing with huge losses.
No, I know, but it's not. I don't want to. Job is a personal thing, not a societal thing. I would not take any lesson from Job to apply to the Holocaust. Because Job is about a personal suffering, not a communal suffering.
Well, I was talking about a person who was going through the Holocaust.
Yeah, I don't even think they should do that. I don't think they should use Job as a reference point for personal suffering in the Holocaust. I think the Holocaust needs a different theological framework than Job, is what I would say. Yeah, Mitzi.
When you get to that point, that depth of despair that he would obviously be in at this point, you've really got two options. One is to blaspheme God, or it's to get closer to God. And I guess as I sit here and think, I would be in such despair that I would reach to God for help and I think that's what I'm reading here, because what else do you do? There's no other way to get through this kind of despair.
Right. I agree with you. And what I would say is, because Job's he's not asking for help, not asking for anything.
No, that's true.
That's the key thing. it would have been perfectly natural for him to say, "Hey, God, hey, all this stuff is happening to me. Could you help?"
Right.
But that's not what
That's
he
true.
does. Just says, "You know what? I'm here. I'm alive. I'm just giving thanks. I'm not trying to put my finger on the scale. I'm just here to say I got another turn, and even though the last turn really sucked, I'm just glad to be playing the game." So he just reaches out in gratitude.
Okay, and that in my field would be called acceptance of the circumstances.
Yeah, I mean, there are ways to reorient oneself so that you can live with challenges. There are also ways to collapse in front of them. Probably more ways to collapse in front of them. You get to pick as a person generally which path you choose. It's entirely your free will. People act like when things happen to them or they suffer, what they should do is they should wallow in their suffering so they can feel it. But that's not actually the best way to that can feel good for a little bit, uh, emotionally, maybe even cathartically, but it does not serve one to make any progress in their life or with the problem that they face. Him praying to God can help him center himself in gratitude.
Right.
Him praying to God to ask for stuff both won't center him and won't accomplish his goal of getting his stuff back. That's why we don't do audacious prayer. Would have been audacious prayer for him to ask, but he never did.
Could he ask that God help him with his suffering? Could he say, "Hey, help me to be able to do this"?
I guess, yeah, you could say, "God, please make it so that I can carry this burden, carry my burdens." But here's the thing. If you're not open to a version of God's solution that is you changing your mindset, if the version of your solution is God will give me my stuff back, then it still doesn't do, again, the whole, like, if that you can only pray for that and have it work if you're open to a real solution. And in this case, a real solution is you change your mindset like he did to say, well, I'm still here. I got more shots. I can do more stuff. I can still enjoy the world that God made. Thank God. If you can make that pivot or a similar pivot, there are other ways you can address challenges than just acceptance and being like, there are other things you can do. But if you can make this pivot, then you and God are working together to make you move forward through tragedy.
Yeah.
If you can't make this pivot, if you're just like, I miss my stuff, and woe unto me, God, I miss my stuff, God's going to be like, okay, I can't get you your stuff back. Big hand isn't reaching out of the sky and dropping stuff. You know what I mean?
Now, I'm wondering, does Kubler-Ross fit in here? She gives you various phases that you go through. Having done mourning for my wife and two daughters, they come and then they return, and they come and return, and then you finally settle on something that works, acceptance.
You're absolutely right, and it is a process. There is just like he is grieving, and grief is a process. And Jewish tradition knows that as well as, not as well, but it knows it like psychology knows it. Jewish tradition understands that grieving is a process. Including, and the grief processes aren't just, but certainly include when people die. In this case, he has lost many family members in addition to his things. Sometimes we focus on the things because he went from being the richest guy in the East to being a nobody. But more than that, perhaps, is the loss of legacy. Although, again,
children.
Right. But the loss of 10 children. And again, you could almost say in a way it's almost Noah-like, right? Because these kids, maybe they were dilettantes and maybe the next kids will be more appreciative. I'm not trying to justify why bad things happen. I'm just saying there is a world in which, like with Noah, it worked out. Now, then again, Noah didn't lose his kids.
It was a non-religious Jew, Sigmund Freud, that said, in addition, you grow from it. You take from the people you've lost, and it makes you a deeper, richer person.
Absolutely. And yes, you can certainly, if you plant the seed of a loved one inside your own heart, what grows there is a way for them to continue living on in you, and certainly enriches your own life. You have to be able to make, again, that pivot on things like loss in order to grow from it, in order to not be stunted by it. Otherwise, you will be stunted by loss.
To move to a growth position, yeah.
Right. You'll end up missing and mourning forever and not moving on with acceptance that allows them again to live on in you, but in a way in which their death lingers like a ghost over you, and that we don't want.
And I've seen people that hang on to that kind of position.
Absolutely. There are people for whom they aren't willing, because the leap is hard. The pivot is difficult.
Yeah.
It requires a lot of it's very difficult. I understand. As someone who's not that many losses, but has loss of close family members. And
I think what happens when you meet with somebody and listen is they start to listen to themselves and gradually get to where they can pivot. Pivoting is not easy.
I agree with you. Pivoting is not easy, but I think Job is going to set us up. Now, we did a chapter. We'll do another chapter next week if we don't have, or we'll do Kohelet. As a review.
They're a little shorter too. We might do two.
We might do two sometimes. This time we even nicely on an hour.
Well, we get through the losses, and then we have a whole bunch of friends.
Right. Yes, the friends have to come and express their feelings and thoughts on how we might deal with the situation. Of course, much like the rabbis will introduce in the Talmud, they'll say you might think, but whenever they say that, they really mean you might think that, but you shouldn't because it's wrong. In similar way here, the friends will say maybe you should, but you shouldn't do what they say because they're wrong.
Exactly.
They're gonna be. Thankfully, Eov has a good heart. Again, because the Hasatan is wrong about him. It's possible to be good, not perfect, but good. And Eov teaches us that it doesn't matter if you're rich or poor. You can be good regardless. Yeah, that's a lesson I think that's worth continuing with. Thank you, everyone that's on YouTube. We will be joined next week, I'm sure, by you as well. Thank you for being